Welcome to the Improve Work podcast. I'm your host, Daniela Tancău, an HR consultant helping entrepreneurs and team leaders build motivated, high-performing teams. Here we talk about leadership, employee motivation, and other topics that enhance your ability to lead. Whether you are an entrepreneur with a team, a business owner planning to build one, or a leader in a company. You'll gain practical advice and insights from me and my guests, experts in the field and entrepreneurs who share their leadership experiences. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe to stay updated on every episode. Let's dive into today's topic. Hi there, welcome back to the Improve Work podcast. My guest today is Rob Gallaher, a successful business owner who uses profit-sharing strategy in his businesses to engage his team members and generate high profits. He has been using this strategy for 10 years now and has improved it throughout this period, making it a highly successful approach. He shares his experiences with creating and developing a profit-sharing system in his book, Profit Sharing, The Power of Shared Success, and he also intends to launch a course about it this year. In this episode, we talk about how he got started with profit sharing, the top mistakes to avoid when putting it into practice, and the wide-ranging impact it has on the business, from profitability and team engagement to how the owner leads and connects with the team members, and much more. Let's dive in. Welcome, Robert. It's great to have you here. We'll talk about profit sharing, a topic that's new on this podcast, and it's one of the most impactful strategies to motivate the team members and help them feel like part of the business, right?
That's correct.
Right. And you use this strategy in your companies, and you even wrote a book about this topic, and that's why I wanted to talk with you about profit sharing. And my first question for you is, where did you learn about profit sharing, and what made you decide to implement this strategy in your companies?
Well, 3 years into running my own business, I was successful financially. I found myself working 60 to 80 hours a week. I had 2 young children at home that I did not see that much. And my marriage with my wife was stagnant. It wasn't bad. She was very supportive, but it was just, we weren't able to spend a lot of time together. And any time we did spend together, we were usually talking about the business. And so I started looking ahead at my future, and I started looking around at other business owners and what they were doing and the lives that they were living. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. I'm sure I can learn some things. I'm sure there's some really smart people out there that are running businesses that are successful, that can actually are getting home at 5 o'clock just to be a dad or to be a parent and be a spouse. And so I started reading other books, business books, leadership books, marketing books, all kinds of books, anything I can get my hands on to learn about being a business owner that is also a good dad and a good husband, and how to manage time and how to set up my day to be successful. Because a lot of times we feel like we run around all day, we're working, we're putting out fires, we're making all these decisions. And then at the end of the day, we don't feel like we really did anything, or that we moved anything forward. And so I started reading and educating myself, listening to podcasts and reading books mostly. And that's where I came across this idea of profit sharing in Dave Ramsey's book, EntreLeadership. He mentions it, very short section in there, probably about a couple pages. And the topic is fascinating. Everybody, the 2 words profit sharing for some reason just really fires people up and spikes a lot of curiosity in us. And it did to me also. I was no different. And so I started researching this topic of profit sharing and Googling it and finding more books on it and more podcasts on it. And I was looking for a how-to or some details on how to implement this in my business. I even reached out to some of the authors and podcasts that were talking about it, trying to get more information. And long story short, I did not get any details. People either didn't respond, or come to find out that they like talking about profit sharing, but they weren't actually doing it or had no real experience doing it. So I decided that I really wanted to try it and that I was going to put it in my business. I had no idea how. And but the idea and the concept is pretty incredible. And if you can figure it out how to works, how to get it to work in your business financially, then it all makes sense. It would work, but there was no proof. No one I could find was doing it. And so anyway, I just decided that I was going to do it and figure it out on my own. And that's what happened. I brought two of my top leaders in my office one day at the time and told them what my plan was. And we started drawing up a profit sharing plan that we thought at the time would make sense and be smart and motivate the team and unify the whole company. And we cut our first profit sharing check in 2015. That's how it got started. Um, it was a disaster the first time. We did so many things wrong. I did not see an ROI on the checks that we were giving our team members. But we didn't give up. We kept making changes. We were asking for feedback from our team. We would communicate with a pretty large team of people that were getting the profit sharing check on what our ideas were and what it was supposed to do, to them and how they were supposed to receive it and how it would motivate them to see if it was even a possibility, if people were even motivated by this, the slice of profit that they were contributing to making in the company. And it took about 3 years of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, but also a lot of wins to really see the ROI that I was looking for and to see this huge change in my team's motivation and in our unity to work together to win every single month. And then that's how we've been rocking and rolling ever since.
Did you implement it in one of your companies or in multiple companies in the first place?
Well, at that time, 10 years ago, we just had two companies and we implemented it in both at that time. We did not know what we were doing. That's why I have in my book, I have the 10 rules of
Mm-hmm.
to profit share properly. And all those rules have come from a mistake or something we've learned along the way. And the whole goal is that if I had that book 10 years ago or
Mm-hmm.
knew these rules 10 years ago and why they're there, then I would have been much more successful with profit sharing faster. And so I wanted to share this information with other business owners that will help them get there faster and they can enjoy the benefits of a properly set up profit sharing plan.
Can you share the top three mistakes, rules that you included in your book?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I would say, and this one blows people's mind, is it must be paid out monthly. In a lot of big corporations, we hear about quarterly bonuses or they do Christmas bonuses once a
Mm-hmm.
year. I've also seen every 6 months. And I preach against that because your team members' lives, their financial needle that they live on every day is monthly. Nobody talks about their grocery budget every quarter or what their
Right.
yearly landscaping cost is. Everything that we do is by the month. Our cell phones, our rent, mortgages, we think our car loans, our insurance payments are all every month. And so I found that if you're not affecting that monthly budget, that monthly number that people need to pay all their bills that month, if you weren't affecting that directly, you were not affecting their daily activities and their daily behavior to win that month. If you say we're going to do quarterly bonuses, that's every 3 months. And let's say you pay out at the end of March, you did
Mm-hmm.
nothing absolutely to change January or February or to help them with their bills January and February. And so it's too far out of a dream or too far out of a reward to start thinking about the hard work needed to make that this month. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a huge thing that we learned. We started out quarterly profit sharing bonuses because that's all you hear about. That's all we knew. We never even thought to do it monthly. So we learned that over trial and error. The other thing that's huge that I think people make mistakes on is it has to be substantial enough. So we have a rule that it has to be $1,000, must be the minimal profit
Mm-hmm.
sharing check. At first, some people, depending on your position and how much profit there was to share, we were giving out some checks that were $250 or $300. and nobody ever gave it back. Nobody rejected it, but it didn't do anything for them. It didn't, maybe they were able to take their spouse out for a nice dinner or a date
Hmm.
night, but it wasn't substantial enough to actually change their life. And when I say that, I'm talking about substantial enough to actually change their thought process every day and motivate them on the daily, minute by minute activities when they're at work to win.
And how did you get to know the amount of money that will motivate your team members?
By trial and error. So we notice a difference between when they would get a profit sharing check for $500 versus if they got a profit sharing check for $1,000.
Hmm.
I think going psychologically, going from a three-digit number to a four-digit number is a pretty big deal.
Yes.
And I learned a lot about psychology and numbers when I would do the pricing for my car wash. For example, a $9 car wash has a much greater value than an $8 car wash. There's something to do with the human brain and having this odd number where it doesn't feel like it's easily roundable up to a higher dollar amount. I don't really know a lot about that, but I bring that up because there's a psychology with numbers. This is why you go to Walmart or some big box chain, and instead of it being a $2 pair of socks, it's $1.99. And it
Yes.
makes it feel cheaper or feel less expensive, even though realistically it's the same price.
Yes, but for me, these prices are annoying because I
It's
know
harder to
that.
do the math. Yeah.
No, 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 because I know the what is the price, and the fact that they just reduce with 1 euro or something. Or
Right, right. I know Walmart uses 197. That's their big thing. Everything ends at
it's
97
it's
cents.
it's better than 99.
Yeah. Okay. You like 97 over
Yes.
99? Yeah.
Yes.
There
For
might be
me,
some reason in your head that you like the number seven more
probably.
than the number nine. So although virtually it's the same dollar amount,
Yes.
it's more appealing to you. So we've
Yes.
and I don't know if the $1,000 it is a larger number and it would change their monthly financial need more. For example, depending on where you live, it could be your rent.
Yes.
It could be or half your rent. It could be a substantial amount of your living costs. And depending on the size of your family and what you eat, it could also be possibly a monthly budget worth of groceries. And
Mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
definitely a car payment. And those are big things that we're trying to. Our whole goal was to get our team wrapped around the idea of getting the reward of their hard work from a business like an owner does.
Yes.
Owners are motivated. They get up out of bed every day. They have energy. They are motivated to win because they need to. Like the buck
Mm-hmm.
stops with them. There's no safety net. There's no unemployment. There's for an owner. There's no relying on somebody else to make decisions and hopefully win. And then we help them and support them. When you're the owner of a small business, it is you. Nobody's coming to save you. And
Yes.
so having that mentality as you grow and get bigger and hire team members and train and they're making important decisions in your organization, having that buy-in from a leader in your team, I found extremely beneficial for them and for the business and for everyone on the team, not just myself, but their people that are underneath them, supporting them. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the coolest benefits I've had from this that I that I didn't see coming was that because I was paying people like an owner was, I also didn't feel alone as the owner. I didn't feel like I
Yes.
had to make every decision. And I felt like I had people on the team that were just as committed to the business's success as I was. And that, for all those business owners out there listening, that is an incredible mental help, mental benefit to have as a leader, as an owner, that you're not alone.
It's a very good point, and I didn't think about this. I just think about the team members that will be more motivated. But yes, it's a win for the owner also, and the team members also. I think that they feel also at partners, at business partners. They don't. They no longer feel just as employees.
Right. They don't feel like a unit of production. They feel like they have
Mm-hmm.
skin in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you do it correctly, the more that the business makes, the more that they make. So they want the business to win, right? They have vested personal interests in your success, and it's a beautiful thing. There's nothing more powerful, in my opinion, as a unified team where you have
Yes.
everyone, egos are put aside, personal agendas are not affecting the day-to-day wins, and everybody knows what the goal is. Everybody has a clear direction, and they work really hard to win every day, and it's very successful.
Mm-hmm. And the third rule, because you mentioned two, and the third rule.
Yeah. The other thing, probably the biggest thing I think business owners make a mistake on is making it obtainable. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, I coached one business owner who he was making about 30, his business was making about $30,000 a month. And he's not wrong. He thought that that money was all his. He was the owner. He founded the company. It was his ideas. It was his whole operation, and he was hiring people and paying them. And he was a good leader and a good coach. But he had this idea that okay, pay, for me to share profit, we should double the profit. I want to go from $30,000 profit a month to $60,000 a month, which is quite a big jump. And he said, okay, if my team can do that, then I'll share some of the profits for your system. And I told him it was a huge mistake and that it probably wouldn't work. And but he did it anyway, and it was a huge failure. They did not double profits. They tried it for about 6 months. At the end of 6 months, his team was unmotivated. They were demoralized, and then he actually started making less money than what he was
Mm-hmm.
before because now the team thinks he was trying to pull a fast one or being greedy and not being fair to them on their goals. And so he redid the profit sharing system back to what I recommended, and his profits actually did double within the 6 months after that because he made it obtainable.
Mm-hmm.
He paid it out on time. He did not get cold feet. He was committed to doing it properly, and then he saw the rewards and the benefits
Mm-hmm.
after he did it correctly.
So it's a risky decision. You have to be careful
It-
what the
um,
goal is.
yeah, you have to be. You can't. And the book and the rules, it makes this clear why you do it a certain way and how much more to do your profit sharing threshold than your current profits to prevent that problem. And he was
Mm-hmm.
being aggressive and I think he was nervous. I think some business owners get nervous about this idea because we all have, ups and downs in business and we worry about cash flow and growth and opportunities and having the money in the bank to be able to handle those situations. But in my experience, for myself and for others I've coached, when you have a unified team, the lows are less low and the
Mm-hmm.
highs are even higher. So your overall average across the board is better. For example, in my car wash, I have a car wash. It's a seasonal business. When it's raining outside, we're not washing cars. And there's, I don't know, I can't figure out a way to control that. And there's a whole industry of car washing out there that can't figure out how to prevent that. It's just something you have to deal with. But what I noticed was when I implemented profit sharing at the car wash, the rainy months where we weren't washing that many cars and our revenue would drop, the team, the managers there were doing things to one, prevent the drop to go down as much as it usually did. So
Mm-hmm.
they were getting more aggressive about saving the memberships. They were getting more aggressive about cutting costs at those times of the year. And then so when the sun came out and we started washing cars, the deficit for that month that we had to work out of was a much smaller. And so we
Mm-hmm.
actually did make more profit that month than we would have made because we didn't lose as much in the bad times. And so the good
Mm-hmm.
times were just even better.
Mm-hmm. So they were more involved because their profit was in the game.
Right, right. They're thinking like an owner would, do we really need to have three people here on a rainy day? Can we get away with two type of
Mm-hmm.
thought process? And then um, Yeah, it just and it's I have lots of stories and a lot of times they're little stories. They're little things that we do to save money or that really add up over time. When you pay it
Mm-hmm.
out monthly, you get that person thinking, they're thinking about that every day, every week, down to every hour and even every minute about what can we do to reduce costs and increase revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these decisions are being made, good decisions, smart decisions are being made, and I'm it's not taking any guidance from me. It's happening without me knowing, and I find out about it later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know that you involve in this system your top people, so those who are in management position or who lead other people. So how do you find the balance between the your team members that are involved in this system and those who are not? Because
Right. Good question.
yes.
So the first thing I'm going to say to business owners listening to this is that profit sharing is not a replacement for a competitive wage. Everyone on your team, whether they're hourly or salary, it needs to be competitive in your marketplace. So that's number one. It's not a low salary plus commission type pay structure. That makes sense. The the we so what we do, and it's not always necessarily a management position. It's what we call a decision maker. So we have another group of people in
Mm-hmm.
our company, and we call them DMs, short for decision makers. And these are people that make decisions every day that actually really affect profit or cost in the company. So they have a lot of levers that they push and pull in front of them daily that help the company win or lose. And so those are the people that can actually make those decisions are the ones you want motivated by profit sharing. For example, a carpenter, they get told what to do, they get told where to go, they get plans and specification on what they're supposed to do that day. They get a schedule that they have to stick to. They have their tools but they're not making those decisions for themselves. They're not making those huge, big decisions. They're not coordinating or setting up or scheduling the job. They didn't estimate it. They didn't do the sales with the customer. They're not doing the big ordering all the materials. They're not deciding how many other guys are going to be on that job. They're not doing those things. They're doing a job. So that person, and then someone at one time asked me, well, a good carpenter can make money on a job, and a bad carpenter will lose you money on the job, even if you set it all up correctly. And I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. But a bad carpenter should not work for you in the first place. That would be bad leadership. And if you have profit sharing properly set up in your company, your leaders will get those bad carpenters out of the building. Your bad producers or people that aren't helping the
Yes.
whole team win. So you're as the owner, also you don't have to micromanage everything because now you have people that think like an owner does and are making decisions like, oh, this guy's a great carpenter. We need to pay him a little bit more. We need to make sure he's happy. Those type things are going to happen all across your organization when you have profit sharing set up. But back to your question on I have had some people be like, well, for example, uh, you can have maybe an AR person or an accountant type, not necessarily entry level, but maybe some kind of paperwork, back office type position in your business. And they see the numbers and they know that you're doing profit sharing, but they're not on the profit sharing system because your bookkeeper, for example, or your AP person or your AR person, they're not really making decisions that can affect your bottom line. A bookkeeper, for example, is documenting what happened in the business and accounting for all
Mm-hmm.
your costs and accounting for all the revenue and putting everything in the right chart of accounts on your accounting system. But they're not out there doing sales. They're not pushing levers and pulling levers and pushing buttons to increase profit, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the acid test that I have is these people actually making decisions every day that make us more revenue or reduce costs in the business. And so the people that do that the most every day, those are the ones that I put on profit sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Can a bookkeeper help a company save money? Absolutely. Mine does. She comes to me with, hey, we spent twice as much on office supplies this month than last month. Oh, well, that's not good. Let's look at the receipts and see what we bought, if it was needed, or if somebody over ordered, maybe those supplies will last us a couple months. So they can help you, but they're not really making those decisions every day that truly affect revenue or reduce costs. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, I understand. But how do you motivate these team members that are not in the system, in the profit sharing system?
That's a
So
great question. Yeah.
because if I were your in your team, maybe I will feel not so great because I'm not in that system.
Yeah. So once again, they were getting paid competitively, so
Mm-hmm.
they can't go somewhere else for $10 more an hour and
Mm-hmm.
have the same job. They would, so they're at the top of their marketplace. So that's one thing that I would say is very important. And then we still do bonuses, Christmas bonuses for those type positions. And those are a form of profit sharing, although they're done yearly. That's a system that I may change in the future. It's something I've been thinking about the last couple of years of somehow taking that Christmas bonus and figuring it out to where we can do it monthly and truly make it a true profit sharing system. It's not something, to be honest, that I'm currently doing. It is something on my whiteboard of ideas that I want to work on in the future. But back to motivating them and getting them to understand that all the traditional methods, obviously, of culture and morale are important, and being a good leader is
Mm-hmm.
a huge part of motivating and caring about your team members to the point where they would care about you and your business and creating that good, healthy environment. All those things are still important. Profit sharing is not a replacement for leadership. It's not a replacement for good culture. It's not a replacement for treating your team members like production units
Mm-hmm.
or numbers. So it's not, I don't want to get it twisted that if you do profit sharing, you don't have to be nice to your team and clear to them and display integrity and accountability to them and be a good person that they want to follow. So you have all those things already in place to help those team members win. And then I've had conversations with them, even though they're not getting a check that says profit sharing on it for a particular
Mm-hmm.
month. They are benefiting from a successful profit sharing system because the
Yes.
company's making more and the team is happier. And in that way, in a roundabout way, like I audit I have 130 employees and we audit their salaries and compare it to market salaries in our area. And we'll actually do research and see what other companies are paying. And then you can get this information online too. I know Lincoln puts it out there, and a lot of these recruiting companies put it out there of what a typical, for example, let's say accountant makes, right, in our area. And my accountant makes more than that. So
Mm-hmm.
they're already being very competitively paid for their position to where that average pay for that person's role in another company down the street from me would typically be much less, if that makes sense. So they are benefiting from a profitable company that's winning and kicking butt
Mm-hmm.
every day and is actually making more profits averagely than another company our same size in our same marketplace would be making.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Yes, I think that this contribute to their loyalty because there are not so many companies that use this strategy of profit sharing, and you don't have so many competitor, I think, in the market.
Yeah, it's something I want to change. I think my dream is that every business that I patronize, that I go to, it could be a doggy daycare or a flower shop or a grocery store or any other vendors that I would use at my home that my wife, maybe the cleaners or the window cleaners or any kind of company that we deal with every day, a coffee shop, for example, a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant that we would go to. If their team members, if the leaders were on profit sharing, how much better would our experience be in those businesses? For
Mm-hmm.
example, why do when we have a problem, let's say we go to a flower store and we order 2 dozen roses and we're just there to pick it up. and we pick it up and it's actually 1 dozen roses. We always ask to speak to the manager. Why do we always ask to speak to the manager? Because we think, and we're usually right, that the manager has more power or decision making capabilities to fix the problem that we're dealing with. But with profit sharing, I found that your team members will fix those problems for you in the right way, just like you would. They would make it
Mm-hmm.
right without overspending, right? They also understand the value of that customer, that we want to make them happy so that in the future they come back, and then we have a potential to earn future profits off of that customer again over and over and over if we do a good job. It's always that customer retention idea
Mm-hmm.
and those decisions are happening in my company every day without me even knowing about it, or without them getting permission to do these things, because they know that it's right for the business and that it helps increase profits and ultimately directly impacts their own income every month.
And were you in situations in which your team members took decisions that weren't in your business interest, even if they wanted to do something good and create revenue for your business, but they didn't have the necessary skills to take those kinds of decisions?
That's a good question. Think about this. One thing I have seen that I've come across before, and it's been years since this has happened, is I had a team member that was very motivated by the profit sharing system. They were very competitively paid. They were very skilled in their job. And what I found was they were overcharging customers because they were motivated to obviously increase profit, and which would ultimately, you would lose a customer over that. Eventually you're too expensive. No matter how good the service is, you just price yourself out of that marketplace, and then that customer would go somewhere else. And so it was a lesson I learned and something we talk about now, and we call that bad profit.
Mhm.
Profit is usually a positive word. It's something we all want. It's something we work towards every day. It's a surplus. But there is such a thing as bad profit, where profit is, it might be money in your bank, but it wasn't earned in a good way. That makes
Yeah.
sense. You overcharge a customer. And this particular individual was low on integrity, so they were maybe doing dishonest practices. As soon as I found out, as soon as this came to my attention, we obviously corrected it immediately. And then now we talk about preventing that in the future, and that, you know, yes, it may increase our profits this month. You may
Mhm.
have a short-term win, but in the construction industry, there's kind of a bad rap for contractors that operate this way. And I teach my team that that's not who we are. It's not what we do. We're here to make a living for 40 years, not get rich in 4 months, if that type of mentality goes. So in my experience, when led properly, your team is coached on this idea and they understand this idea. And it's not a hard concept to understand, but you have a team with integrity. This is a very strong point, that they understand that we will make profit. We will be successful by service and value pricing and treating
Mhm.
customers fairly all the time, way more than we would ever make by taking advantage of a one-time situation, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, sure. So you cover your experience in your book, and I know that you plan to launch a course on profit sharing. Can you tell us more about this course?
Yeah, we have a website being created right now. There'll be a course on there that you can purchase to teach you everything I've learned about profit sharing in the last 10 years. One of my regrets is it's not necessarily the money that not having a profit sharing system cost me. It's the money that I could have made and that my team members could have made if we were had a profit sharing system set up sooner in my career, in my business, and also correctly. It took us 3 years of trial and error, of wins and losses, but some heartache, some heartburn, and some
Mhm.
some gray hairs to figure out. And so this idea came to me a couple of years back, where businesses, when you're experience the growth and success that I have, people notice it. And I have a lot of friends that are in business. I'm a social guy, and I find a lot of value in hanging out with other business owners and make an attempt to go to conferences and trade shows and join these clubs where there's business owners there and pick their brains and learn, right? I don't need to learn all this myself the hard way. Hopefully I don't learn it all the hard way. I can learn from others and people started asking me questions. How did your business tripled in 3 years or whatever was going on. And how did you acquire this car wash and you did this remodel and it came out successful? And every time I drive by your car wash, it's packed, these type of conversations coming up. So they start asking me what I'm doing. And I tell them I do this profit sharing thing. It really motivates my team and we're unified and everybody, I don't have issues with people not working. I don't have issues with unmotivated or people quiet quitting or being distracted by other things. And that's a very intriguing, appealing topic for a lot of business owners. So I started helping them out. Just, hey, this is what
Mm-hmm.
I do. And I started sharing what I was doing. And I would bring them into my office and show them the spreadsheets and show them how to do it and things I've learned and what not to do. And that became a lot. A lot of guys, a lot of business owners were asking me, and it was starting to take up a lot of my time. And somebody suggested that maybe if I just wrote it all down and they
Mm-hmm.
could just read it, and then it wouldn't take up all my time answering all these questions. So that's where the book idea came from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to put everything in a book that is not 4 inches thick that somebody would actually want to read. So we created a course that will be out in late July, early August that people can attend, and it will teach you everything I've learned about profit sharing, exactly how to do it, including the spreadsheets and examples of speeches to lead your team to announce it, and all kinds of good stuff to really take all the knowledge and experience that I've learned in 10 years and give it to somebody else and save them years of trial and error and heartburn and gray hairs of doing it themselves.
Gray hair.
Yeah.
It's a,
Which
it's
I
a,
have the gray hair because of profit sharing, of figuring it out, and I can save somebody else some gray hairs. That'd be great.
Mhm. Yes, and you can interact with them, or you can see their feedback and you can update your course, uh,
Right.
or you can write another book.
Right. I've actually learned some things from these businesses that I've coached to setting it up, and some of their questions and their ideas have actually helped my own. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a community exercise to everyone winning.
Mm-hmm. They help you to reflect on what you do.
Correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then they ask good questions, and it gets me thinking about other ways or ideas or better ways, and we've implemented several ideas that way.
Mm-hmm. So it's a system that improves continuously.
Correct. Yeah, just like in business or our own lives. I think one of the traits of a strong business leader or any leader for that matter is a relentless pursuit of self-education. You're
Yes.
never you
Mm-hmm.
never made it. You never know everything. You can always be smarter, you can always have more experience, you can always have more knowledge in whatever you're doing. And this is just part of that. And having other business owners to work with is how I got here. And I hope to continue that.
Mm-hmm. So you started a new business with this system.
Yeah, it's called Profit X. And we will have the course available, the books available already on Amazon. But I think we'll probably run classes here in San Jose. Maybe I go out to other businesses and help them set it up. And if they need more one-on-one time of me or one of our current profit sharing experts, I have a lot of people on my current team that are very familiar with the system that have helped me create it and adjust it and collected feedback on to improve it. So we have a vast capacity of knowledge of people with experience in profit sharing and that know how to do it correctly.
Mm-hmm. How can people get in touch with you or with your team to learn more about how you can help them?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Rob Gallaher. You find me there. You can find my book on Amazon called Profit Sharing: The Power of Shared Success. And then our website is profitx.co. We'll have the course available on there in the summertime, and you can be able to reach out there and check out all the other services that we offer.
Mm-hmm. I will put the links to your social media in the show notes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob, for sharing from your experiences. And I think that these are very helpful for any entrepreneur who wants to practice this strategy and try it out, because it's a very powerful one. And I think that it's very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Daniela. Good job. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you found value in this podcast, subscribe to stay updated. I'm grateful for your support and hope to continue providing content that helps you grow. See you in the next episode.